The transport ship cut through the red clouds of RH-07, its engines leaving a trail of silver mist behind. Captain Ethan Cole stood near the cargo bay door, tired eyes watching the scanners flicker with dust and static. He had fought too many wars, carried too many ghosts, and now he only wanted silence. But silence was not what he received that day. The cargo hatch opened with a hiss, revealing a small metal pod covered in guild markings. Ethan frowned, because he had not ordered anything. The dock officer, a gruff alien with scaled skin, handed him a datapad and said, "A delivery from the Trade Guild, human. Signed to you." Ethan checked the registry, but it was blank. Only one word glowed on the display. "Gift," he sighed, thinking it was some bureaucratic mistake. Still, he carried the pod into his quarters, set it on the floor, and pressed the activation rune. A soft hum filled the air as the pod released steam and light. When it opened, Ethan froze. Inside was not cargo, but a woman. Her skin shimmered like faint moonlight, silver and blue at once. Long strands of white hair floated as if in water, and her eyes opened slowly, two brilliant orbs of violet. She looked around, dazed, then focused on him. Her voice was soft and trembling. "Are you my human?" Ethan stepped back, startled. "You're what?" She lowered her head, kneeling on the cold floor. "I am Sarah," she whispered. "I was grown to serve, to comfort, to please. You may use me however you wish." Ethan's throat tightened, and anger rose inside him, not toward her, but toward whoever sent her. He turned away, rubbing his scarred hands. "Get up. You're not property." But she stayed still, afraid to move. He fetched a blanket and placed it over her shoulders. She stared at the soft fabric as if it were something sacred. "No one ever gave me warmth before," she said, her voice almost a question. Ethan did not answer. He simply walked to the window. Watching the red storm swirl outside, he wanted to send her back. But the pod's transponder was erased. No return address, no signal, nothing, that night. She sat silently in the corner while he tried to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of the war, fire, screams, the faces of those he couldn't save. When he woke gasping, Sarah was there, kneeling beside him. "Do you need comfort, my human?" she asked, reaching out gently. He caught her wrist and whispered, "Don't." His voice cracked like glass. Confusion crossed her face. In her world, humans were said to crave ownership, to break what they touched. Yet this one refused even her touch. She watched him sit in the dark, shoulders heavy with guilt he never spoke of. And for the first time since her creation, she felt curiosity instead of fear. The next morning, Ethan gave her food. Real human rations. She ate slowly, tasting each bite as though learning what flavor meant. He asked her, "Where did you come from, Sarah?" She answered quietly, "From a cloning cradle on Varel Prime. Sold to the Trade Guild at birth." Her voice shook, but she didn't cry. Because she didn't know how. He looked at her and saw not a gift, but a wound wearing human shape. He said softly, "No one owns you now." She blinked, puzzled. "Then, why haven't you used me?" He clenched his jaw, staring at the floor. "Because I don't want to hurt you." She tilted her head. The concept strange to her kind. Later, she wandered through his small cabin, touching things, the rusted tools, the cracked photo of Earth. Everything carried dust except one small flower in a jar, dried and fragile. "What is this?" she asked. "Something that used to live," he said. "Like me." She smiled faintly, though she didn't understand. Days passed, and they spoke little. Ethan repaired his ship while she watched, learning his ways. At night she sang quietly in her language, a sound like rain over glass, he found himself listening, feeling peace for the first time in years. But he hid it, afraid to feel anything again. Then one evening, the comm system blinked red, an incoming message from the Trade Guild. "Shipment number 47 confirmed delivered," the voice said. "Inspection team arriving within 3 days." Ethan's stomach turned cold. He looked at Syrah, who sat near the heater with the blankets still around her. If they came, they'd take her back, erase her, and send another. That night he made a choice. He walked to the control panel and deleted all records of the delivery. When she saw him do it, she asked, "Why are you hiding me?" He answered, "Because you deserve to exist." Her eyes widened. Trembling with emotions she couldn't name. Outside, lightning flashed across the crimson sky. Inside, a human and an alien sat together in silence, both prisoners of their pasts. But something fragile began to grow between them. Something neither fully understood. Syrah whispered once more before sleep took her. "Why haven't you used me yet, human?" Ethan closed his eyes and said quietly, "Because I was sent a person, not a thing." And for the first time in her life, Syrah wept, not from pain, but from being seen. The storms outside raged on, but inside that small ship, a forgotten man and a created girl shared the first spark of freedom. A gift neither of them expected, but both would fight to keep. The storm outside had quieted, but inside Ethan's ship, another kind of silence grew. Syrah moved carefully through the narrow corridors, her bare feet soft against the metal floor. She tried to understand this human who neither commanded her nor desired her. He treated her like a guest. Yet she still felt like a burden each morning. Ethan gave her tasks, cleaning tools, checking filters, learning the ship's systems. Not as orders, but as lessons. When she did well, he said, "Good work," and smiled faintly. That smile made her chest ache in a way she didn't understand. At night, she watched him sit alone by the viewport, staring into the red clouds. Sometimes his hand trembled when he held his mug. She wanted to ask what haunted him, but she feared the answer. Instead, she whispered songs in her language, hoping they would reach the parts of him that words could not. One evening, as the heat coils hummed, she sat beside him and asked softly, "Human, what do you dream of?" He didn't look at her. "Of people I failed to save. Are they gone?" She asked. "Yes," he said, voice flat. "All of them." Her fingers twitched, wanting to touch his hand, but she stopped herself. Later, she found an old photo on his desk, a group of soldiers smiling under a Terran flag. Ethan was among them, younger, alive in the eyes. On the back were names written in ink, now half faded. When he saw her holding it, he froze. "Put that away," he said sharply. She obeyed instantly, lowering her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He sighed, guilt replacing anger. "It's not your fault," that night. She couldn't sleep. Her mind kept repeating his words. "It's not your fault." No one had ever said that to her before. She remembered her creators telling her she was property, a tool of comfort, but this man refused to even touch her skin. It made her question what she really was. The next morning, she tried to help him with repairs. He was fixing the coolant line when a spark burst. Burning his arm, Syrah gasped and rushed forward. Without thinking, she grabbed his wrist. Pressing her cool hands over the wound, Ethan froze, not because of pain, but because of the warmth in her touch. Her eyes glowed faintly as her body released nanits to numb his burn. He stared in shock. "You can heal?" She nodded. "It's part of my design." Then she added in a small voice, "See, I can be useful." Ethan looked at her. Really looked. "Being useful isn't the same as being alive," he said. Syrah tilted her head, confused. "Alive means choice, Syrah," he said. "You don't have to earn it. her lips parted slightly, as if trying to taste that strange word, choice. That night, while he slept, she sat by the heater, whispering to herself. "I am alive," she repeated again and again, as though learning a prayer, but deep inside. One question kept burning. Why does he not touch me? In her mind, touch meant belonging, meant purpose. Without it, she felt invisible. The next day, a supply ship arrived, bringing noise and life back to the lonely dock. 3 human traders entered, laughing and drinking. When they saw Syrah, they stared openly. "Nice unit you got there." "Captain," one of them said, smirking. "Trade Guild's finest." Ethan's jaw clenched. "She's not a unit," another man chuckled. "Relax. We know how these things work." Before he could finish, Ethan punched him, sending him crashing into a crate. The others backed away, shocked. Syrah watched, trembling. Not from fear, but from awe. After they left, she asked quietly, "Why did you do that?" He answered, "Because they looked at you the way I once looked at the enemy." She frowned. "Enemy?" "Someone I was told not to see as a person," he said. His words struck her like lightning, because that was exactly how she had always been seen. Later, when he returned to the cockpit, she followed. "Ethan," she said, testing his name for the first time. He turned, surprised. "You've never called me that before." "It felt wrong," she said. "But now, it feels right." He smiled faintly. "Then keep saying it." Her heart raced, a strange warmth filling her chest. Days passed in fragile peace. They laughed once, just once, when the water recycler exploded and drenched them both. Syrah laughed until she cried. Ethan wiped his face and said, "Guess we're both broken machines," she replied softly. "Then maybe we can fix each other." But beneath the laughter, danger brewed. The guild patrols were searching for the missing shipment. Ethan intercepted a coded transmission. They were coming. He looked at Syrah as she slept, curled under the blanket he'd given her. He knew what they'd do if they found her. They'd erase her mind, return her body to the market. He sat beside her, whispering to himself, "I won't let them take you." In his chest, something long dead began to stir. Purpose. Maybe even love. When morning came, Syrah awoke to find the ship already moving. Engines roaring toward the outer rim. "Where are we going?" she asked. Ethan answered, "Someplace they can't reach us." She smiled softly. "You're running for me?" He met her gaze. "No, I'm running with you." And for the first time since she was born, Syrah felt truly alive. Not because of ownership, not because of design, but because one broken human had refused to treat her as anything less than real. She looked out the window as the red storms faded into stars. In her heart, she carried his words. Alive means choice. And she swore that no one would ever take that from her again. The stars outside the window stretched like ribbons of light as Ethan's ship jumped into hyperspace. Syrah sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat, her hands folded on her lap, watching the swirling energy tunnels pass by. She still didn't understand how a human could risk everything for her, but she could feel something new in her chest, something that frightened her more than pain ever had. Ethan checked the scanners, making sure they weren't being followed. The Trade Guild didn't forgive theft, and in their eyes, Syrah was stolen property. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. He glanced at her. "To an old relay station near the rim. A place no one cares to search." She nodded, trusting him without question. Hours passed, and she began to hum again, that strange melody that sounded like glass rain. Ethan found himself smiling without realizing it. But before he could say anything, the ship's alarm blared red. An incoming vessel was closing fast. No transponder signal, no call code. His stomach tightened. "Guild patrol," he muttered. Syrah's pulse quickened. "They found us?" He nodded. They must have tracked your signal. My signal? She whispered, confused. He turned toward her. The mark on your neck. It might be broadcasting. Her eyes widened in horror. She touched the faint glowing sigil just beneath her skin, a small circle made of golden light. I didn't know, she whispered, voice trembling. Hold still, he said. Grabbing his toolkit, he scanned the mark, watching the screen fill with alien script. It's not just a tag, he said. It's a control link, meant to override your mind if you try to run. Sierra shivered, her voice barely a whisper. Can you remove it? I'll try, he said, but if I fail, it could kill you. She looked straight into his eyes. Then I trust you. The patrol ship hailed them. Demanding immediate surrender, Ethan ignored it, his hands shaking as he cut into the glowing lines of her mark. She bit her lip, trying not to scream, as light spread down her collarbone like fire. He whispered, Stay with me, his voice firm but gentle. Alarms echoed through the cabin and outside. The enemy ship began to charge weapons. Ethan cursed under his breath and connected the ship's defensive field. A bolt of plasma struck their hull. Throwing sparks everywhere, Sierra fell to her knees, clutching her head as the mark pulsed violently. Ethan, she cried, it's burning inside me. He held her shoulders, forcing her still. Almost there, he overrode the control matrix and jammed the spike into the ship's power conduit. Electricity surged through the floor, and the mark flared bright gold before vanishing in a flash. Sierra collapsed forward, gasping, the air thick with the smell of ozone. Her skin was pale, her body trembling. Breathe. Come on, Ethan urged, his hands shaking as he checked her pulse. Her eyelids fluttered, and for a moment, she looked up at him through tears. It's gone, she whispered. He exhaled in relief. You're free. But before they could celebrate, another plasma round struck their hull. The guild ship wasn't giving up. Ethan jumped into the pilot's seat, diverting all power to thrusters. The ship roared as it dove through an asteroid belt. Rocks spinning past like angry gods, Sierra crawled to the viewport, watching bright stones scrape their hull. Can we escape them? She asked. If the gods of bad luck take a nap, Ethan said. Gripping the controls tight, one of the asteroids exploded behind them. Sending a shockwave that ripped across space, Ethan twisted the ship downward. Using the debris field as cover, the guild ship fired again. But this time, the rocks took the hit. When the smoke cleared, they were gone, hidden inside a hollow asteroid cave. Both of them sat in silence, hearts pounding. Sierra looked at her hands, still glowing faintly from the energy surge. She whispered, You risked your life for me again. Ethan shook his head. No, I risked it because it's what people are supposed to do. Her voice softened. People don't do that for us. He met her gaze. Then maybe it's time someone did. Minutes passed before she spoke again. When you broke the mark, I felt something inside me, like I was being rewritten. He looked at her carefully. You sure you're okay? She nodded. Yes, but I think I can feel you. He froze. Feel me? She touched her chest lightly. Your fear, your heartbeat, your pain. Her voice trembled. The mark connected us. Ethan stared, unsure what to say. The guild's control device had failed, but something else had replaced it. Something deeper. A faint psychic resonance now linked their minds. When he thought, she flinched. When she breathed, he felt warmth behind his ribs. Neither of them understood it, but both knew it was real. He leaned back in his chair, exhausted. Well, he said quietly, that's going to make privacy complicated. She laughed softly. For the first time since she was born. I don't mind, she whispered. It makes me feel close. He turned to her, his face soft in the dim blue light. You already were, he said, outside. The asteroids drifted slowly through the darkness. The guild ship moved on, unable to detect their hiding place. Inside, a human and an alien shared the quiet space between fear and trust. Sira touched the spot on her neck where the mark once glowed. It was gone now. But something far more dangerous had taken its place: connection. And as the ship floated in silence, Sira whispered a vow into the cold air. "I will never go back to being owned." Ethan looked at her and nodded. "Then we keep running," he said, "until the stars themselves forget who we were." And together, they prepared for whatever the next chase would bring. The asteroid cave drifted in silence. Hidden among the stars, Ethan's ship floated quietly. Lights dimmed to avoid detection. Inside, the hum of the engine mixed with the faint rhythm of two heartbeats. One human, one not. Sira sat beside him, her hands folded around a cup of warm water. Her eyes glowed softly in the darkness, reflecting the stars beyond the glass. For the first time in her life, she was free. No commands in her head, no voice telling her what to be. But freedom felt strange, like a new kind of emptiness. She looked at Ethan and wondered what filled the silence inside him. Ethan was repairing a control module, his hands steady despite exhaustion. Sira watched the small scars on his fingers catch the light. She could feel his thoughts brushing her mind. Quiet but heavy. Sorrow, guilt, and something else he tried to hide. Finally, she asked, "Why do you always push me away?" He paused, not looking up, "Because if I don't, I'll start to care." The words lingered between them like smoke. She tilted her head. "Is caring wrong?" He gave a tired laugh. "For me, it never ends well." Sira lowered her gaze, unsure how to answer. On her world, feelings were forbidden for creations like her. But now, she felt everything: curiosity, fear, warmth, all tangled together. That night, she dreamed for the first time. In her dream, she stood in a garden filled with silver trees. Every leaf whispered Ethan's name. And when she reached for him, her hands turned into light. She woke with tears on her face, not understanding why. When morning came, Ethan found her sitting near the viewport, eyes distant. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded. "I think I felt something while I was sleeping." "What kind of something?" She placed her hand on her chest. "Like my heart wanted to touch yours." Ethan froze. His breath caught between disbelief and fear. He said quietly, "That's not how this was supposed to go," before either could speak again. The proximity alarm beeped faintly. A small distress signal was echoing through the asteroid field. Ethan frowned. "That's a civilian beacon." Sira stood up. "Someone's in trouble?" "Probably a trap," he said. "Guilds use fake signals." But when the signal repeated, it carried a child's voice crying for help. Ethan cursed under his breath. "Damn it." Sira placed a hand on his arm. "Please, Ethan. We can't ignore it." Her voice carried the same conviction he once had as a soldier. He sighed. "You're going to get me killed." But he turned the ship toward the signal anyway. They found a wrecked shuttle spinning slowly in the dark. Inside was a young alien girl, barely alive, her breathing weak. Sira's instincts took over. She pulled the child aboard and started treating her wounds. Ethan helped seal the airlock, watching the two of them together. Something about that image, Sira protecting someone smaller, filled him with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. The girl whispered a single word before passing out. "Hunter." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "That's not good." He scanned nearby space, and his heart sank. A larger vessel was approaching fast. Black hull, guild insignia flashing red. "They tracked the signal," he said. "And now they found us." Sira looked up, fear mixing with determination. "We can't let them take her." He nodded. "Or you." They prepared for battle, charging shields, rerouting power, ready to die together if needed. When the enemy ship fired, the first blast hit their tail section. Throwing sparks through the cabin, Sierra screamed as her body reacted. The psychic link flared between them. Pain flooding both minds, Ethan shouted, "Stay down!" But she could feel every ounce of his fear. Their bond wasn't just emotional now. It was real. Physical, burning like fire through their veins. He struggled to stabilize the ship, diving between debris fields. "Ethan!" she cried, gripping the console. "I can help." "How?" he shouted. She closed her eyes, focusing on the energy that now lived in her body, her veins lit with blue light. And the ship's systems flickered to life again. "I'm channeling power from me to the core," she gasped. "Just fly." Ethan didn't ask questions. He pushed the engines to their limit. Together, they outmaneuvered the guild ship and vanished into hyperspace once more. When the silence finally returned, Ethan turned to her. Her glow faded, and she fell against the seat, exhausted. He caught her before she hit the floor. Holding her close, "Why did you do that?" he whispered. She opened her eyes weakly. "Because I didn't want to lose you." Her voice trembled. "You said I could choose, remember?" "I chose you," Ethan froze. The words hitting him harder than any battle. He carried her to the bunk. Laying her down gently, her hand brushed his. And for the first time, he didn't pull away. She smiled faintly, eyes wet with tears. "Why haven't you used me yet, human?" she whispered one last time. Ethan's voice cracked as he answered. "Because I wasn't given a toy, Sierra," he said. "I was given a miracle." Her tears fell silently, warm and shimmering, for the first time since her creation. She cried not from pain, but from love, outside. The stars shimmered like 1,000 silent witnesses. Inside that small ship, a soldier and his gift found something neither had ever known, belonging, and in that moment, both of them realized that love, once given freely, could break any chain ever forged by cruelty. The stars looked peaceful again. But Ethan knew peace never lasted long in his life. The ship drifted quietly through the deep lanes of uncharted space, its hull scarred, its lights dim but alive. Sierra lay resting in the medbay, her body weak from channeling too much energy. Her silver hair shimmered faintly against the pillow, a reminder that something extraordinary still breathed beside him. Ethan sat nearby, watching her heartbeat flicker on the monitor. He didn't understand how she'd done it, how she had saved them both from certain death. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her collapsing, whispering those words, "I chose you." That single sentence replayed in his head like a haunting melody. For years he'd run from everything human built. Love, touch, but she had brought it all back. When Sierra finally woke, her voice was soft. "Did we make it?" Ethan smiled weakly. "Yeah, we made it." Somehow, she tried to sit up, but he gently pushed her back. "Easy. You burned through half the ship's power keeping us alive." She blinked slowly. "Then I guess we're both running on empty." He chuckled quietly. "That's nothing new for me." She looked at him for a long time before speaking again. "Ethan, when I felt your mind inside mine, it was beautiful." He froze, unsure how to respond. "Beautiful?" She nodded. "Humans carry pain, but also hope. I never knew both could live in the same heart." Her eyes glistened as she added, "I think that's what makes you different." Ethan turned away, pretending to check the control panel. He didn't trust his voice. Not after everything she'd said, but Sierra wasn't finished. "You saved me twice," she whispered. "First from them, and then from who I thought I was." He looked at her, his expression soft but tired. "No, Sierra, you saved me. Outside." The ship crossed a golden nebula that shimmered like fireflies. Inside, silence filled the air, not the heavy silence of guilt, But the calm that follows truth, Sira walked to the viewport, still weak, her bare feet silent on the floor. She touched the glass and stared at the light-filled clouds. "What will we do now?" she asked. Ethan leaned against the console. "I was thinking of disappearing." She turned toward him. "Humans always hide when they're hurt." He smirked slightly. "And what do your kind do?" "We were never allowed to choose," she said. Until now, the word choose hung between them like a promise. For the first time, neither of them felt like running. Ethan checked the scanners. No guild ships nearby. No patrol signals, just silence. But that silence was fragile. He knew they'd come again someday, and when they did, they'd come for both of them. Sira walked closer, her violet eyes glowing softly. "If they come," she said quietly, "we fight together." Ethan looked at her, seeing not a fragile creation, but a soul strong enough to defy an empire. He nodded. "Together." She smiled, a small trembling smile that carried more courage than an army. Later, they landed on a small moon covered in ice and light. Ethan stepped out into the thin air, feeling the crunch of frost beneath his boots. Sira followed, her breath visible, her hair shimmering under the pale sun. She looked at the horizon, endless and untouched. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "No maps, no owners, no flags. Then this place is ours," she said, her voice filled with wonder. They began to build a small shelter beside a frozen ridge. Ethan worked the tools while Sira gathered crystals that glowed faintly blue. She was learning fast, faster than any human could. When he asked how, she smiled. "Maybe I was designed for obedience, but you taught me freedom. That makes me faster." He laughed softly. "You're starting to sound like a philosopher. Or maybe just human," she said playfully, and he couldn't help but laugh again. That night, under a sky filled with twin moons, they sat by a small heat lamp. Sira leaned her head against his shoulder, her warmth quiet and steady. "Do you miss your home?" she asked. He thought for a moment, then answered, "Home isn't a place. It's the people you'd die for." She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "Then I guess you're my home." Ethan's throat tightened. He turned to face her, and for once, he didn't pull away. His hand brushed her cheek, and she didn't flinch. She smiled. The air between them hummed faintly, their bond glowing with soft golden light. "I thought touch meant ownership," she whispered. He shook his head. "Not when it's shared." And for the first time, their hands met, not as master and creation, but as equals. The energy between them pulsed brighter, spreading through the frozen air like starlight. In that moment, two broken beings from different worlds became something new. Not machine and soldier, not owner and gift, but human and soul, bound by choice, not chains. Their link glowed through the night, a golden thread connecting heart to heart. It wasn't power or control. It was something stronger, understanding. When dawn came, the frost sparkled like diamonds around their shelter. The trade guild would keep searching. The universe would keep hunting, but they would face it together. No longer fugitives, no longer property. Just two free souls who had found each other in a galaxy built on cruelty. Ethan looked at her one last time before the sun rose. "You know," he said quietly, "I used to think humans were the only ones who could love." Sira smiled gently. "And now?" "Now I know love doesn't belong to humans," he said. "It belongs to whoever dares to feel it." She reached for his hand, her eyes shimmering with tears and light. "Then we are both human now," she whispered. He squeezed her hand, and together they watched the first sunrise of their new life. No marks, no chains, no masters, only two hearts beating in the same rhythm. The bond between them was no longer a curse or a creation. It was the most human thing in the universe, a choice to love. And in that quiet corner of space, far from every world that had ever owned them. A soldier and his gift finally became what they were always meant to be, free.